Well, good morning and welcome to Rising. President Joe Biden gave his first State of the Union address last night, where he gave some important insights into the country's changing attitudes towards the pandemic. We'll get to that later in the show. But first, the war in Ukraine was the first item on the president's agenda. He shared an update about steps America is taking to punish the Kremlin and Vladimir Putin. Let's watch.
Tonight, I'm announcing that we will join our allies in closing off American airspace to all Russian flights, further isolating Russia and adding additional squeeze on their economy. We have mobilized American ground forces, air squadrons, ship deployments to protect NATO countries, including Poland, Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And as I've made crystal clear, the United States and our allies will defend every inch of territory that is NATO territory with the full force of our collective power, every single inch. Tonight, I can announce the United States has worked with 30 other countries to release 60 million barrels of oil from reserves around the world. America will lead that effort, releasing 30 million barrels of our own strategic petroleum reserve. And we stand ready to do more if necessary, united with our allies.
The mayor of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city, has reported many casualties as it faced fierce assaults from Russian military last night. The State of Emergency Service of Ukraine is reporting Russian missiles attacking central Kharkiv as we speak. And in Ukraine's capital, roughly 15,000 people are taking shelter in stations throughout Kiev. That's according to the city's metro authority. Rockets struck residential buildings, a Holocaust memorial site, and a TV tower on Tuesday. This comes after the Russian military warned of high-precision strikes.
Meanwhile, the European Union has announced a ban against 7 Russian banks and sanctions against Belarus for supporting Russia in its invasion of Ukraine. So what did you make of Biden's approach to Ukraine in his address last night?
Well, look, it was very popular, even with Republicans. I understand why he went in the direction he did, and strong condemnation, as I've made clear on the show so far this week. Strong condemnation of Russia is perfectly merited, and further action, not military confrontation, not a no-fly zone, but action is justified. That said, I thought the tone that Biden took was almost like, we've won some war. It was celebratory. It was a mission accomplished type speech about everything we've done to stop and constrain and prevent Russia. They're in the middle of battle. They're killing people in Kharkiv and Kiev as we speak.
And I think what that reveals is the difference between the way that normal people think about foreign policy and foreign relations and war and peace, and the way that foreign policy experts, and Biden considers himself one, foreign relations chair, vice president, in D.C. think about it. And the difference is that you and I see a war and we see a horrific human tragedy, like a humanitarian crisis, the type of thing that we should have done anything remotely conceivable to avoid from happening. The foreign policy types, the blob in D.C., they look at it and they see a zero-sum kind of contest between great powers. And they think, oh, look at Russia. Now they're in serious trouble. They've got the entire West united against them. They've got everybody sanctioning them and agreeing to all of these different sanctions. Their economy is going to plummet. They might get bogged down in a years-long occupation and guerrilla war in Ukraine, which will sap their power. And they think if that saps their power, then if the world's a zero-sum game, then American power and Western power increases. And so, and it goes back to, there was that interview that Hillary Clinton did with Rachel Maddow the other day, where she was talking about, look what happened when the USSR invaded Afghanistan. It didn't work out very well at all for the USSR. And to her, that wasn't a horrific tragedy. What it was a great success, an intelligence success, that the U.S. was able to fund this insurgency that could bait the USSR into coming into Afghanistan, suffering all of these casualties, losing all of this money, and contributing to the collapse later of the Soviet Union. So that's chalked up in Washington as a W. Whereas a normal person, it's like, no, Afghanistan has just been posting L's for decades and decades. It's horrible. it's hard with the number of people that have died and suffered as a result of it. That's not good. But to foreign policymakers, and it's not just America, every foreign policy blob in every capital city kind of thinks in this amoral way. Like right now there's a migration crisis flowing out of Afghanistan because of our punishing sanctions and our stealing of their central bank money. But for some, no doubt, the fact that they're flooding into Iran, well, that's a good thing because it destabilizes that little corner of Iran. And if they're destabilized, then they're hurt. And if they're hurt, then we're up.
And I think both of us, have a lot of questions about whether the steps we're taking to isolate Russia are helpful. Maybe they are, but I want them thought through a little bit more. Nobody can fly anywhere. The people are going to be hungry or can't get access to their money. I don't know. Is that helping? Right. Maybe it is, but can we just punishing? We're not trying to punish the country of Russia. We're trying to punish the Putin regime and its allies to make them to encourage them to desist from this course of action. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to evaluate, because most of the people in Russia are against this as well. They're on the same side. They're
shocked by it.
They're horrified. Yeah. Both because of the horror of what's happening to the people of Ukraine, and also because they know it's going to hurt them internally as well. It's going to make them starve. It's going to make them lose money. So that did not seem well considered in the speech. It was just like, it's nice. Look, it's nice to be united. The moral calculus here is very clear. Like this is not a blah 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 blah. No, it was wrong for Russia to invade Ukraine. Ukraine did nothing wrong. They're a sovereign nation that had no reason to be overrun. That this is a war that Putin chose, that is getting people killed and has made the entire world less safe by bringing us precipitously closer to an all-out nuclear war. And Putin has given us few options, and that is very frustrating, and that is very wrong and evil. So it is fine for us all to be on the same page, but there's nothing to celebrate right now.
I think a significant thing that they're celebrating is being right for once. Yeah. Because that has not happened in a very,
That's
very
true, right?
long
The intelligence community gets we're talking about L's and W's. They get the W.
Yes. Right, because let's run through their L's real quick. Like they missed the fall of the Soviet Union. Yeah. They missed 9/11. They blew weapons of mass destruction. Yeah. Then in the drone war, they're constantly droning innocent civilians, including famously in Kabul.
One just a couple
They missed
weeks
the
ago.
fall of Kabul. They thought it was going to be months. It happened to be a weekend. Whereas regular people in Afghanistan were like, no, these cities are falling like dominoes. I even talked to somebody in the White House like in the week before it fell, like, Kabul might fall this weekend. Like, how did just random people at the White House know? But the intelligence community wasn't up on it yet. So they've been so wrong for so long, and now they came out.
Their Russian intelligence is better than their Middle Eastern intelligence. They're
built to do
professionals
Russian,
at Russian the spy game.
They've been doing it for a very long time. Yeah. That's what they were literally built to do. Was to counter Russia, and so they made a bold and precise prediction. They didn't get the exact day right because, of course, Putin knew what day we predicted, and how embarrassing would it be
if he invaded that day.
So he waits a week and then did basically exactly what. And in fact, he may have gone even a little further. Although there were elements of the intelligence community warning saying, no, we're not talking about just a limited incursion into Donbas. We're talking about a full-scale invasion targeting Kyiv. And a lot of the skeptics on this show as well were like, okay, no way, you guys are crazy. It's not happening. And so I think part of it is that they're just so excited that they got something right, that they're missing the fact that, okay, you got that little part right, but what about the 30 years of policy that created the conditions that led to this? What role did the U.S. play in that? Did the West play in that? What could have been done differently?
A lot could have been done differently, we've both of us and Kim have all tried to educate viewers about the really bad history of this kind of NATO expansion and of dangling NATO without actually we didn't bring them in.
Right. Right.
This is what's happening to them now.
Right. Right. And it's important to talk about culpability and responsibility, and obviously Putin made the decision and is culpable and responsible therefore. But this is a failure of all of the global elites. Something like this it's a failure, and
war always is. And
the question needs to be asked of where did it come from and what can be done differently. And if you just continue to think in these zero-sum ways, like, boy, this is really bad for Russia, then you're going to continue going down paths that lead to more death, destruction, humanitarian crisis.
A lot of applause.
Right.
Not sure why, but that's a common fact of the State of the Union. I think the State of the Union, you probably know this, of course, because you're very well educated about presidential trivia as well, but from Jefferson through Wilson, there was no State of the Union. Jefferson would just write a letter and send it in, and that's perfectly the pomp and circumstance, the celebration of our government.
It was Wilson that did it first?
Woodrow Wilson brought it back.
It was around war, right?
Woodrow Wilson wanted to reassert the imperial presidency. Right. And it was the genesis of so much of the modern cult around the presidency and the vast expansion of the federal executive's power.
We should go back to just make it a blog post, right?
Yeah, maybe a tweet, maybe just
a thread,
a TikTok. It could be a TikTok now.
A TikTok and also a thread so that people can retweet the parts they like and comment on the individual parts that they like.
And we could go to bed early because we got a morning show to produce.
That's right.
Gosh darn it.
That's right. Here we are producing it for you.
Well, next we'll tell you what's on our radar, so stick around for that.